Gen Z is doomed. It's true. Yo, what's good? Everyone, welcome back. It's me here. And if you know anything about my content, then you know I love talking about generational differences. Now this has taken on a whole new meaning, given the fact that there are some serious economical circumstances going on in the world right now. There was a recent study done by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas which surveyed people between the ages of 18 and 34. So millennials and Gen Z. The study asked them questions about their current financial situation and future outlook, and the results were quite surprising. According to Pew Research, 39% of millennials had a bachelor's degree or higher, compared to 48% of Gen Z. And they're also doing better in terms of unemployment. And the total student loan debt in America as of 2023 is $1.7 trillion. But for Gen Z, it's only $46,800. This is according to a report from the Economic Policy Institute. And it's understandable why many Gen Zers feel like they're doomed. But I don't think they are. A study done by Charles Schwab found that Gen Z is more likely than millennials to save money automatically. Use cashback rewards, invest in cryptocurrency, care about a company's social impact, and get advice from social media influencers. But if they focus on building their skills, being smart with their money, and being patient, they can overcome these challenges and achieve financial success. So what do you think? Is Gen Z doomed, or are they just facing some temporary struggles? Comment that down below. Also, please leave a like rating if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more content. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time. And while these habits may work for some, they're not a one-size-fits-all solution. For example, investing in cryptocurrency can be risky, and relying on social media influencers for financial advice can be dangerous. Gen Z needs to be careful of who they are re-listening to and what they are re-putting their money into. I think this is just a temporary setback, and there are some steps they can take to get back on track. For one thing, they need to focus on building their skills and gaining experience so they can move up in their careers and make more money. They also need to be smart with their money and live below their means. It's easy to get caught up in the spending culture, but they need to resist that temptation if they want to get ahead. Finally, they need to be patient. It takes time to build wealth and financial stability. They can't expect to get rich quick. They need to be willing to put in the work and make sacrifices now in order to reap the benefits later, which found that 38% of full-time workers between the ages of 18 and 29 worked in a low-wage occupation compared to 26% of workers between the ages of 30 and 45. The reason for this is because a lot of Gen Zers are still in school or right out of school, which means they don't have much work experience and they're stuck in entry-level positions. But as time goes on, I expect this number to go down. This is significantly less than previous generations at the same age, and it's making it hard for them to achieve financial stability. In fact, a study done by the Brookings Institution found that the average household headed by a 25-year-old had just $4,300 in net worth. And for those without student loan debt, that number drops to just $1,700. So essentially, they are restarting off with very little, and then they have to pay rent, and they have to pay student loans. So they're stuck in this cycle of debt. This is a huge burden for anyone to carry, and it's holding Gen Z back in many aspects of life. Many of them have said that they couldn't buy a home because of their student loans. And 23% of Gen Z with student loan debt said that they would move in with their parents if they could have their student loans forgiven. Right now, the unemployment rate for Gen Zers between the ages of 18 and 24 is 7.2% compared to 11.5% for millennials at the same age. And it's even lower if you break it up by age. As of February 2023, the unemployment rate for 16 to 19-year-olds was 5.1%, which is very low. On top of that, Gen Z is on track to surpass millennials in terms of median wealth by the time they reach their 30s. This is mainly due to the fact that the median net worth of Gen Z as of 2022 was $36,000 compared to $14,000 for millennials in 2010. So overall, they're doing much better than previous generations at the same age. First of all, when they asked the participants to rate their financial situation at the moment, most of them said that they were worse off compared to their parents at the same age. Their struggles begin once they step foot into the real world, and it gets really bad. First of all, housing. In major cities across America, the cost of rent has skyrocketed. For example, from 2010 to 2022, the average rent in Austin, Texas went from $687 a month to $2,032 a month. That's an increase of almost 150%. And it's a similar story in cities like San Francisco, Seattle, Denver, and Phoenix. And that's just the average. Some places saw rent increases well above 150%. And that's not including the insane prices of housing. Like in Austin, the median home price went from $200,000 in 2010 to $575,000 in 2023. And in San Francisco, it went from $525,000 to over $1.3 million. These dramatic increases in housing prices are obviously making it extremely difficult for Gen Z to afford homes. In fact, a study done by Realtor.com found that 54% of Gen Zers believe that it will take them 5 years or longer to save enough money for a down payment on a house. This is compared to 35% of millennials, 18% of Gen X, and 14% of boomers. Like, for example, 46% of millennials and 52% of Gen Zers said that they were worse off compared to their parents at the same age. When asked why they thought that was the case, the top answer given by Gen Zers was the cost of living. But when asked what they expected their financial situation to be like at their parents' age, 72% of Gen Zers said that they didn't know or refused to answer, which is pretty wild. Now, this survey is not entirely representative of either generation, since it only surveyed those who have access to a bank account at the Federal Reserve. But even still, it does seem to show us that there are some concerning trends happening with the younger generations, especially Gen Z, the first generation to be financially worse off than their parents. So in this video, we're going to talk about exactly that. How is Gen Z struggling more than previous generations? Why are they struggling, and what can they do to get ahead? If you want to find out, then make sure to stay tuned until the end. Also, please leave a like rating on this video if you enjoyed it, and let us get right into it. So to start things off, I think it's important to note that yes, while Gen Z is worse off than previous generations, they are by no means having it bad. They have more opportunities and advantages than any other generation before them. This goes back to a point I made in my last video. Just because one generation is doing better than another doesn't mean that other generations aren't also doing well. For example, boomers absolutely crushed the previous generation, but that doesn't mean that they didn't also face struggles. The same goes for millennials and Gen Z. When it comes to Gen Z, they are actually doing better than millennials were at the same age in terms of education. However, this is where the problems arise. While they might be doing better in terms of education, unemployment, and wealth, everything else is bad. The next problem Gen Z faces is student loans. According to educationdata.org, the average student loan debt for a 25-year-old is $36,280,000. Moving on, we have income. The median household income in the U.S. is currently $65,700. And finally, there's the issue of jobs. While Gen Z has the lowest unemployment rate of any generation, they're also working more low-wage jobs. All of these issues combined to create a perfect storm for financial struggle. I think the best way to illustrate this is by talking about financial habits. In the end, Gen Z is not doomed. They're just facing some unique challenges.